The storm howled outside, rain lashing against the wooden shutters of Anna's small cottage. She had been preparing for bed when she heard a heavy thud near her door. Heart pounding, she opened it to find a man collapsing at her feet, his clothes soaked in blood and mud. His eyes, sharp yet dulled by pain, met hers for a fleeting moment before he lost consciousness. Fear surged through her veins. What kind of man wandered the night in such a state? She could have left him there to die, but something in his broken form stirred her compassion. Against every warning her village had taught her about strangers, Anna dragged his heavy body inside. She cleaned his wounds with trembling hands, whispering prayers as the candlelight flickered over his scarred face. There was power in his presence even as he lay helpless. She wondered if fate had cursed her for opening her door. Yet as she covered him with a blanket, she felt an unexplainable pull. She had no idea that saving this wounded stranger would bind her to a destiny filled with danger, betrayal, and a love she never expected. The stranger slept for days, his breathing ragged, his fever burning. Anna tended to him quietly, making herbal remedies and changing his bandages. She told no one of his presence, though the secret weighed heavily on her. The villagers were already uneasy. Soldiers had been seen in the area, hunting a fugitive. Whenever Anna went to fetch water, she heard whispers of war, betrayal, and a dangerous man on the run. Her hands shook as she poured broth into the stranger's mouth, wondering if she had brought that very danger into her home. He rarely spoke, but when he did, his voice was low and commanding, sending shivers down her spine. His piercing gaze seemed to see through her, though weakness kept him confined to the bed. One evening, as she adjusted his blanket, his hand shot out, gripping her wrist with startling strength. "Don't tell anyone I'm here," he rasped, his eyes burning despite his frailty. Fear and curiosity battled within her heart. Who was this man? Why did soldiers hunt him? Against logic, she promised to keep his secret. In that moment, Anna's life stopped belonging to herself. She had chosen, unknowingly, to shelter a man who could change everything. The days grew darker as Anna pieced together fragments of the truth. At night, the stranger muttered in fevered dreams, calling out names she didn't recognize. Sometimes his words were filled with rage, orders shouted in battle. Other times they were whispers of betrayal and pain, his voice breaking as though he relived a wound deeper than flesh. Anna sat by his side, torn between pity and fear. Could this be the man the soldiers searched for? The ruthless warlord, whispered about in taverns. She remembered the scars across his body, the sharpness in his gaze, the aura of command even in weakness. He wasn't a farmer or traveler. He was someone who had seen rivers of blood. One evening his eyes shot open and he grabbed her wrist with terrifying force. "Hey, you don't know who I am," he hissed, before falling back into unconsciousness. Anna's heart pounded. She wanted to flee, yet something stronger held her back. For all his ferocity, there was brokenness in him, something deeply human. She whispered to herself, "Who are you, really?" But in her heart, she already knew. She was caring for a man both feared and hunted, the shadow of a warlord. The truth came crashing down one night when the village was raided. Soldiers stormed through the streets, demanding to know if anyone had seen a fugitive. Anna's blood froze when they knocked on her door. Before she could speak, the stranger emerged, no longer weak but terrifying in his sudden strength. With ruthless efficiency, he fought them off, his movements sharp, deadly, unstoppable. Anna could only watch in shock as men twice his size crumbled before him. The soldiers fled, whispering a name that chilled her to the bone. The Warlord, a man of legends, feared across kingdoms, hated by many. He turned to her, his chest heaving, eyes like fire. "And now you know who I am," he said coldly. Her knees threatened to buckle. She had saved not a traveler, but the very man her people loathed, the woman-hating warlord whose name was spoken like a curse. She should have been terrified, and she was. But another feeling pulsed within her chest, fascination. Why had fate brought him to her door? And why, despite everything, did he allow her to live when mercy was not a word known in his world? Her life was forever changed. After that night, nothing was the same. The warlord insisted she come with him. "They'll kill you for helping me," he said bluntly, his voice leaving no room for refusal. Anna resisted, tears brimming in her eyes. "I never asked for this," she whispered. But he was unmoved. "Your life is tied to mine now." Against her will, she left the only world she had ever known, following him into the wild unknown. Every step away from her village felt like a chain tightening around her heart. Was she his captive, or was he truly protecting her? She could not tell. He provided her food, shielded her from danger, and yet his coldness remained. When she stumbled, he steadied her. When fear consumed her, his presence calmed her. Still, his silence was impenetrable, his hatred for women unshaken. Anna felt both trapped and strangely safe, her heart torn in two. She should have despised him. Instead, she found herself drawn deeper into the storm that was his existence. For the first time, she wondered if she was running toward danger or destiny. The nights on the road were long and filled with silence. Anna often sat by the fire, sneaking glances at the warlord as he smoked in brooding thought, his eyes fixed on some memory far beyond her reach. He was a man carved from stone, unyielding and sharp. Yet one evening, she caught him staring at the stars with an expression so raw it made her chest ache. She dared to ask, "Why do you hate women so much?" His jaw tightened, and for a long moment she thought he would strike her down for her boldness. Instead, he whispered almost to himself, "Because love betrayed me. Because trust ruined me." His words were like a dagger piercing her heart. She saw not a monster, but a man scarred by betrayal so deep it had poisoned his soul. For the first time, she pitied him. She reached out, her hand brushing his arm in silent comfort. He flinched as though her touch burned him, yet he didn't pull away. That night, Anna realized the warlord was more than his legend. He was broken, bleeding inside, and despite her fear, she longed to heal the wounds no sword could reach. Their fragile bond was tested when enemy soldiers ambushed them in the dead of night. The warlord fought with unmatched fury, his blade singing through the darkness. But their numbers were overwhelming. Anna hid behind a tree, her heart racing as screams echoed around her. Just when she thought all hope was lost, an arrow whizzed past her, grazing her arm. Pain seared her skin, but fear drove her forward. Without thinking, she grabbed a fallen dagger and thrust it at the soldier lunging for her. Blood stained her hands for the first time, and she trembled violently. The warlord's roar split the air as he cut down the last attacker, his eyes blazing when he saw her bleeding. "Foolish girl!" he snarled, gripping her arm to stop the blood. Yet beneath his anger, his hands were gentle, his voice laced with something dangerously close to concern. Anna, shaken and pale, whispered, "I didn't want to die." His expression softened, for just a heartbeat before the mask returned. That night, as they rested in a hidden cave, Anna realized that for all his hatred, he would never let harm come to her. She was no longer just a burden. She was becoming his reason to fight. Days passed, battles came and went. But one evening, while tending his wounds, Anna overheard the warlord murmuring in his half-sleep, "I can't lose her too." His words froze her hands in place. Her breath caught in her throat as she realized he was speaking about her. Did he care for her, even if he would never admit it? The next morning, she confronted him. "You said I mattered to you." His eyes turned to ice. "You heard wrong." Yet his clenched fists betrayed him, the flicker in his gaze telling another story. Anna's heart pounded as she whispered, "You can push me away, but I see the truth." For the first time, he looked at her not as a burden, not as a threat, but as a woman who had pierced through his walls. Silence stretched between them, thick and heavy, until he finally spoke in a voice rough with emotion. "Don't make me care. It will destroy us both." His confession was not of love, but of fear, a fear greater than any enemy he had faced. And though he turned away, Anna knew that the warlord, who once hated women, was already beginning to lose his battle against her. War closed in around them. The enemy discovered their trail, and the warlord's army was crumbling under betrayal from within. Anna begged him to flee, to let go of the endless bloodshed. "There is more to life than war," she pleaded. But he shook his head. "This is all I am. To run is to die." Tears burned her eyes as she grabbed his hand, forcing him to face her. "No, to love is to live." His eyes, always so cold, softened as if her words struck the deepest part of him. But their moment shattered when arrows rained down and chaos erupted. The warlord shielded her with his own body, taking a wound meant for her. Blood soaked his clothes as he staggered, but his grip on her hand never loosened. "Go," he commanded, but she refused, sobbing, "Not without you." For the first time, the great warlord's strength faltered, not in battle, but in the face of her devotion. In that moment, he realized that death meant nothing compared to the fear of losing her. Love, the very thing he had hated, had finally become his greatest weakness and his greatest salvation. The battlefield was littered with smoke and silence when it ended. Against all odds, the warlord survived, though barely. Hannah stayed by his side through every moment of agony, refusing to leave him. His soldiers, once hardened and cruel, watched in disbelief as their feared leader leaned on a woman's touch. His strength no longer his sword, but the love he had denied for so long. When he finally stood again, scarred but alive, he looked at Anna with a gaze stripped of pride, stripped of hatred. "You saved me," he said, his voice breaking. "Not my life, my soul." Anna's tears fell freely as he took her hands in his. The man once known as the woman-hating warlord bowed his head, surrendering not to an army but to her. "I will never love another. Only you." For the first time, his heart found peace not in conquest, but in the warmth of the woman who saw the man behind the legend. Together they walked away from the ashes of war, not as captor and captive, but as equals, two souls bound by love that had conquered even the darkest of fates.